Hari Om, everybody. We will start with the Mangala Charanam. Anyone who wants to follow the Mangala Charanam and Guru Parampara Vandanam, you can use the PDF that I had sent. And it should be there in the WhatsApp group files section in case some of you joined after I had sent the PDF. Om Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyan Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirivodbhutam Yatha Nidraya Yasakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Om Narayanam Padmabhuvam Vasishtham Shaktin cha Tatputra Parasharancha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padma Padancha Hasta Malakancha Shishyam Tantotakam Vartikakaramaññan Asmadgurun Santatamanatosmi. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshamam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Parabrahmanishtham Swato Dharmanishtham Ahimsaikanishtham Swashishyai Sujushtam Yatinam Varishtham Gurunam Garishtham Dayananda Rupam Madacharya Mide Namah Shri Paramathaya Samsaradhyasanashine Shrotriya Brahmanishthaya Tasmai Brahmavide Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Namaste to everybody. And I welcome you all to the second class of this Fundamentals of Vedanta. In the beginning of every class, I'll give a brief summary of what we discussed in the previous class so that we regain the context, because 1 week has elapsed and some of us may have had a chance to dwell more on what we discussed and revise what we discussed, and others may not have had. So to start with the summary, we started with the question of what is it that I really seek? And each of us may have different answers to what is it that I really seek. But if we probe into that, why is it that you are seeking that which you are seeking? Then the answer will very soon converge invariably to I want to be happy. I want to be fulfilled. So everybody is invariably seeking fulfillment and happiness. Then if we were to inquire into it a little bit further and look into the means and ends, then we will see that the end is always more important than the means in terms of how dear it is to me. If I have a certain goal, then there are multiple ways to accomplish it. I will take one of those ways, and if that is not possible, I'll take another way and to get to that goal, and so on. And after that goal is accomplished, I let the means go. I don't hold on to the means. So, for example, if somebody wants to get a degree, one has to get into the college, but after getting the degree, one doesn't permanently hang around in the college. So the end here is fulfillment, and we are using various means to get to it. And that is what is really dear to me. Then the next question we probed into was that we want this unconditional, fulfillment. And the reason is that if we ask, do you want to be happy at home or outside, at night or day? We will say, what kinds of questions are these? I want to be happy at all times and all places. I want fulfillment at all times and all places. So we want this unconditional fulfillment. And we gave that a name called Purnatvam. So we are all really seeking Purnatvam. And what I find, my situation, if I look into my situation, is quite the opposite. I find myself to be a limited mortal being, and at various dimensions. If I take the doer part of me as a karta, I have a lot of things to do. I feel apurna. As a bhokta, as an experiencer, I have lots of things to experience. I feel apurna. As a knower, a pramata, I have a lot of things to know, and I feel apurna. And similarly, at the uh, family level, professional level, in terms of my possessions, there are various situations that arise that make me feel apurna. And then the body and the mind, they all have limitations and issues that make me feel apurna. And then I am in this wide, huge universe, and I'm a small speck. And there are various obstacles that arise from within me, adhyatmika, from beings around me, adi bhautika, and from forces, natural forces, adi daivika. So all these obstacles arise and they make me feel apurna. So any which way I look at it, there are so many reasons to feel apurna. So there is this huge gap, and that is what I am trying to fill continuously. Somehow I am trying to reach my destination, but all these factors come in the way. So then we asked, is there any way to get to this Purnatva? And one important thing to notice is I cannot drop this desire for Purnatva. I cannot drop it. There may be some desires that I can drop, like a desire to buy something, and I have a fancy for it, and later on I realize it's not something that I can afford, or maybe it's not something I want, and that way the desire gets dropped. But this is the most fundamental, natural urge in every human being. It cannot be dropped. So we ask the question, how do we get to it? And that's exactly where Vedanta comes in. The prayojanam of the study of Vedanta is exactly this Purnatvam that I am seeking. So Vedanta has to offer exactly what I am seeking. This is what we discussed in the last class. Now, we will look into these aspects a little bit more. The result of any study is knowledge. And the result of Vedanta study is also knowledge. It is knowledge, jnanam. It's called Atma Jnanam. Now, is the knowledge something that I really seek? Actually, nobody really seeks the knowledge. Through that knowledge, I get the Purnatva. And that is what I am really seeking. So the main prayojanam of Vedanta, the mukhya prayojanam, is this Purnatva. The secondary prayojanam is the knowledge. We call it Avantara prayojanam. So Vedanta, the study of Vedanta gives rise to this knowledge. And through that knowledge, I get Purnatva. Nobody just really desires knowledge for the sake of the knowledge. So the mukhya prayojanam, the Purnatvam, if you look into it, Vedanta declares Shokam Tarati Atmavit. The knower of this Atma transcends all sorrow. Shokam Tarati Atmavit. Brahmavid Apnoti Param. The knower of Brahman. We will talk about what Brahman is. Brahman, Vedanta presents, is the absolute reality. The knower of Brahman, Apnoti Param, attains Param. Param means this Purnatva. Unconditional fulfillment, absolute fulfillment. Now, it also says, Atyantika dukkha nivrittihi paramananda praptischa. A total cessation of all sorrow and an attainment of absolute fulfillment. These are the words that Vedanta uses. Triptihi nirankusha. Unrestrained fulfillment. Is there anything in the world that can dare to make such a claim? Nothing. Because the fulfillment that we get through various things that we are accustomed to trying to draw fulfillment out of, nothing can make this claim. So now, a person who has this knowledge, who has seen the Purnatvam, such a person is called Jivan Muktaha. Jivan Muktihi is this person who has this Purnatvam even when living in this world. Jivan Muktihi is liberated even when living. Amidst all of these same factors that we talked about, the person is liberated. Liberated from what? Liberated from all these apurnatvas that I attribute to myself. So the liberation doesn't come as a result of fixing all these problems. Suddenly the world becomes perfect. No. In spite of those problems, that the person is liberated. And such a person doesn't act for Purnatvam in this world. When he or she acts, it is not for the sake of drawing Purnatvam, for the sake of drawing fulfillment out of something. The person is already fulfilled. The person acts out of fulfillment. This may raise a question that will this person even have the motivation to do anything? Or if the person is already so fulfilled, why would the person do anything? There are two reasons. One is because something has to be done. That is one reason. The person may be in a certain situation, and the situation may require the person to do some things. So because certain things have to be done, he does that. in a given situation. So there may be, and there are examples in the Shastras of this, that there have been Jivan Mukta liberated kings like Janaka. And they continue to rule the kingdom even after gaining this knowledge. There have been Jnanis who have been Grihasthas, and they continued with the Grihasthashrama, the Grihasthashrama duties. Really speaking, such a person has gone beyond duty, but he still acts. And the Bhagavad Gītā says, in fact, the Bhagavad Gītā says that this person acts, does his duty, even though it is not required for his fulfillment or anything. He does it, his duty, his or her duty, in order to set an example for others. That the right thing has to be done. And then there is another reason which is called Loka Sangraha. Even though there is no personal fulfillment this person has to gain, they act for the betterment of the world. So we have our own gurus, for example, Adi Shankaracharya, Jivan Mukta Jnani, who traveled across the country, spreading the message and wrote so many commentaries, so many stotras, all out of Purnatvam, not for the sake of Purnatvam. So for such a person, life becomes a sport. In what way? If we take the example of a cricket match, for example, for this case, let us say there are 5 games in the match. Now, in the first 2-3 games are being played, everybody is in this do or die kind of a situation. I have to somehow win this kind of a situation mindset. That is how the players play the game. But consider a team that has won the first 3 games of the 5-game series. They have won the series. Now, with what attitude will they play the other 2 games? They will play. They will do what is required. But they don't have this thing that I have to win this. They're saying, whatever be the outcome, I'm okay with it. If I win, that's fine. If I lose, that's fine. Because I've already won the series and nothing can change their outcome. So the Jivan Mukta has already won the series of life. There is nothing more for this person to accomplish. He has done what needs to be done. He has known that which needs to be known, and he has obtained that which needs to be obtained. Kritakrityaha, done what needs to be done. Prapta prapyaha, obtained that which needs to be obtained. And this Purnatvam also includes Amritatvam. This person with this knowledge, Atmajnanam, he says, I was never born to begin with, and I will never die. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit. Bhagavad Gītā says that ultimate reality, Brahman, is never born, never dies. Jnani says the same. There's the story of Markandeya Rishi. His lifespan was 16 years. And when the 16th year ended, Yamaraja sent his messengers to bring him. And at that time, he was worshipping Shiva. And when he saw the messengers come, he embraced the Shivalinga. The messengers were unable to take him. So they sent Yama. They asked Yama to come. And Yama came and threw his noose and landed on the Shivalinga. And that brought Shiva out. And he slayed Yama. So this is how the Puranic stories present the Vedantic ideas. That the one who has seen this Purnatvam, and Shiva here is that Purna Atma, Brahman. The one who knows this, has this Atmajnanam. Even death cannot touch this person. That's why Shiva is called Yamantaka. In fact, Antaka is a name that is given to Yama because Yama brings an end to everything through death. But Shiva is called Yamantakaha, Yamasya. The one who brings an end to Yamaraja himself. So this is the prayojanam of Atmajnanam. Now the question, this may raise a doubt in our mind. That Vedanta is saying all this, but is this absolute cessation of sorrow really possible? How do I even imagine such a situation? Or how do I relate to this? And in this case, this example will help. Suppose I'm going on a road and it's a long, narrow alley kind of a street. Oh, it's a dusk time. In fact, it's going to be dark pretty soon. From the other side, I see a pack of dogs. And then they start to growl at me. So now my steps, I slow down. I want to stay away from this. But then they start to approach me. So I said, this doesn't look good. Let me turn around. So I turn around. I start walking in the other direction. And from the other direction, I see another pack of dogs approach me. So now I am stuck this way. I cannot go this way. I cannot go this way. And the dogs are closing in on me, growling. They don't like me. I'm wondering what to do. And from where I stand, I see a street right in front of me. I'm thinking I should run there. But from that side, suddenly a lion approaches. A lion roars. And when the dogs hear the lion's roar, they start to scamper away a little bit. They are also taken aback. And the lion roars a second time. And it's so loud that I wake up. So now I realize that all this was a dream. From the standpoint of the waker, all this is not the reality. From the standpoint of the dream individual, all this was very real. And the problems were very real. But from the standpoint of the waker, it is not. From the standpoint of the waker, there is absolute cessation of sorrow. Now imagine this. In fact, this sometimes happens with my daughter also. When I try to wake her up, she said, give me 5 more minutes. I'm in a dream. I want to continue it, she says. So now I don't. That has happened to all of us, that sometimes we are in this interesting dream and we want to be in that dream for some more time. Now imagine a situation where somebody knows it is a dream-like thing, dream-like reality, and continues in that. What will the person's attitude be? That is exactly what the Jivan Mukta's, the Jnani's attitude is. He knows that all of this is not absolutely real. There is a certain reality to it, no doubt. But it is not the absolute reality. He knows this. So he can continue to live in it, but he is untouched by whatever happens. And that is why the example of the lotus leaf is given. The water droplets on a lotus leaf, they don't wet the leaf. So the Jnani continues to be in the world, but is untouched, unaffected by whatever happens in the world. So in this example, ignorance of my absolute reality as the waker was the cause of all the issues in the dream. So similarly, Vedanta says there is this absolute reality that you have to know. And once you know that, you are liberated from these issues. And as long as you don't know that, these problems will afflict you. But here one can raise an objection that I understand the dream example, but I don't understand it still, because here I am awake. So in the vision of Vedanta, we are still asleep. Asleep to the reality of who I am. And that's why the Upanishad says, Uttisthata Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhata. Uttisthata Jagrata. Wake up. Upanishad wants us to wake up. The Mandukya Karika, there is one verse. It says, Anadi Mayaya Suktaha Yada Jiva Prabhutyate. Anadi Mayaya Suktaha. The vision of Vedanta, due to the Anadi, due to the effect of the Anadi Maya, the Jiva is asleep to his own reality. And how long has this sleep been going on? Is Anadi. Anadi Mayaya Suktaha. This Maya is also Anadi. We will see all this in detail. That the ignorance is beginningless. So this sleep is also beginningless. How long have I been asleep? I have been asleep forever. Vedanta says if we get a doubt that is perhaps what Vedanta talking about, is that fiction? Vedanta says no. What I am talking about is the fact. You are living in a fictional world because of this ignorance. All this apurnatvam that you are attributing to yourself is fiction. So this is the prayojanam of Vedanta. Now, listening to this, the jiva, the individual, when one comes across Vedanta, one gets interested, perhaps, that what Vedanta is saying sounds plausible, sounds reasonable, and there are examples which I can relate to. And so with this prayojanam, one can get interested in the study. But what Vedanta says is that there are four factors that have to come together for this study to really proceed and lead to the prayojanam. These four factors are called, one is the prayojanam. So we pulled out the prayojanam from these four factors and saw this because that is what we are all seeking. So the first factor is this prayojanam, which is the benefit. And we saw that in some detail. The next factor is called Vishayaha, the subject matter. The third factor is the Sambandha between the Vishaya and the Prayojanam. There should be a certain Sambandha, a connection between the Vishaya. The study of the Vishaya should lead to the Prayojanam. Only then the study of the Vishaya will be fruitful. And the fourth factor is the Adhikari, the candidate. So we will take the example of medical study and see what these four factors are. And this is compared to the four pillars of a mandapam, for example. So a mandapam stands on the four pillars. So similarly, the study stands on these four pillars. It is called Anubandha. These four factors together are called Anubandha Chatushtayam. That the factors, this means Anubandha means that which binds the student to the study. That which glues, that which bonds the student with the study. So sometimes we have this, we try to stick a stamp on an envelope. And if the glue is not good, it keeps coming off. So if these four factors are not there, the study cannot proceed beyond a certain point, or the study cannot result in the prayojanam. It has to stick. And these are the factors that make it stick. So the first thing we saw, and we will look at this from the medical studies example. So what is the prayojanam of the study of medical science? It is curing people and making a living out of it. That is the prayojanam. One gets to serve people, cure people, and also make a living out of it. There is this prayojanam of the medical science, exactly like we saw in our case, which is the knowledge of medical science. That is the prayojanam of the study. But the knowledge is not the end. One applies the knowledge in order to accomplish the curing and in order to accomplish the making one's living through the knowledge. The second factor is the Vishayaha. The Vishayaha in this case is study of symptoms, how to diagnose diseases, and the identification of the cure, study of medicines, etc. That is the Vishaya. Now, what is the Sambandha between the Vishayaha and the Prayojanam? The study of this Vishayaha gives rise to the knowledge of these things. And through that knowledge, I am able to accomplish the Prayojanam. This is quite clear. Now, who is the adhikari, the candidate? Now, the candidate is somebody who wants to enter, who has to enter medical school, let us say. So this candidate has to have studied biology in 11th and 12th. And that is a prerequisite. That's what is a prerequisite for the further study. But sometimes the candidate may have studied biology in 11th and 12th, but then may not be interested in the prayojanam of medical science. So then that person is not a candidate. So the candidate should have the prerequisites and should also have interest in the prayojanam. Now the next aspect is that the candidate should see the connection between the study of the Vishaya and the Prayojanam. Because somebody may be interested in a certain Prayojanam, but they may think I can accomplish it through some other means other than the study of the Vishaya. For example, there are people who may go into you know things like Reiki and some of those things. I'm not saying that, this is better, that is not this. I'm not comparing the two. I'm saying that if a person doesn't have the clear idea of the connection between the study of the Vishaya and the Prayojanam, one may think that this can be accomplished through some other means. And in case the study is getting difficult, he may drop out because he may think I can accomplish the Prayojanam through some other means. So one has to see the indispensable connection between the study of the Vishaya and the Prayojana. So if a person has the qualification and is desirous of the Prayojanam and also sees the indispensable connection between the study of the Vishaya and the Prayojanam, then that person becomes a Jigyasu, one who is desirous of knowing what this Vishaya is. And when all these factors come together, then the student is committed. The student will say, I have to somehow get to the end of this, because these things come together and lead me to the prayojana. There is no other way. There is no alternate route. So with this background on the Anubandha Chatushtayam, and with regards to this word Anubandha Chatushtayam, the Shakara in the Chatushtayam is the Murdhanya Shakaraha. Call it Shanmukha Shakaraha. You have to twist your tongue to say that. Chatushtayam. So here, let us look at the four factors in relation to Vedanta. We have already seen the Prayojana. Now, what is the Vishayaha, the subject matter of Vedanta? So somebody may say, hey, I was talking about all these body, mind, family, possessions, profession related issues and all that. So does Vedanta help me study all that and then fix all that? I have problems with my mother-in-law. Will it somehow tell me techniques about how to fix that? So no, Vedanta doesn't fix or study the objects, the Vishaya in the world. That is not the subject matter. In fact, Vedanta says you have been searching for this fulfillment in the wrong place. Like we said in the last class, I want to be fulfilled. I am focusing on the right-hand side. Want to be fulfilled, and I am trying to fix the things around me to try to somehow get to that fulfillment. So Vedanta says you have to look at the left-hand side of this. You're looking in the wrong place. So there was this man who was looking for something, a ring that he had lost. It was dark, and there was a road and a street light, and the man was looking for the ring that he had lost. And a few more people were walking by, and they said, "This fellow is searching for something. Let us help him." So they went near him and asked him what is going on. So he said, "I lost my ring." So these people also joined the search, and in about a few minutes, there was a small crowd of people searching for the ring. Then they asked this. After a while, nobody found anything. So they asked this person, "Did you really lose the ring here? Where exactly did you lose the ring?" So he said, "I didn't lose it here. I lost it there." He pointed to a place that was about 50 feet away. Then they said, "Why are you looking for it here? This is nonsense. Why didn't you tell us before? We wasted so much of our time." And this person says, "I am looking for it here because this is where the light is. That place is dark." So when we talk about this story, this may sound so absurd, we may laugh at it. Vedanta says that's exactly what we have been doing. Paranchi khani vyatrinat swayam bhuhu tasmat parang pashyati nantaratman, says the Kathopanishad. That Bhagavan has placed our senses so that they only look outwards. So the senses light up this world. And because the senses are lighting up this world, I think I have to find my fulfillment there only. Vedanta says no. You're doing exactly what that man who lost his ring is doing. Says you have to look at this I. You have never looked at it before. Have you inquired into whether this I is really unfulfilled? So the Vishaya, the subject matter of Vedanta, is this I, the Atma. It's called the Atma. That's why Vedanta is also called Atma Vidya. Vedanta says that there is this self-ignorance about this Atma. There is this, you are ignorant of who you are. And because you don't know that this Atma is Purnaha, you have assumed you are Apurnaha. And once you have assumed you are Apurnaha, then whatever follows, the product of their ignorance. The other thing that Vedanta talks about is Paramatma or Brahman. So those can be used interchangeably, Paramatma or Brahman. Vedanta says that there is this reality, which is Paramatma, Brahman. And before this world was there, Paramatma, Brahman was there. Science says that this universe started with this Big Bang. And what was before that, if we ask science, they say we don't know. In fact, they use a fancy term called singularity. They say it's a point of no information. But basically, they're saying we don't know. Because we look into this as we proceed in our study. That science is based on what data we can gather through our sense organs. And Paramatma cannot be seen with our sense organs. So Paramatma, Brahman, is also the subject matter of Vedanta. That's why it's called Brahma Vidya. Bhagavad Gītā su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre, the Bhagavad Gītā. You would have read Brahma Vidyayam, Brahma Vidya. So Vedanta talks about Paramatma, and that Paramatma is the cause of this world. Before this world emerged, Paramatma was there. And from this Paramatma, this entire universe emerged. What's an example of this? Exactly like the dream emerges from the waker. The waker goes to sleep, and from that, the dream world emerges. To the dreamer, to the dream individual, it looks completely real. So from Paramatma, this world has emerged. It is sustained by Paramatma. And into that Paramatma, the world will resolve. This is the Vishaya of Vedanta. Atma, Brahman, Paramatma. And then the Vedanta teaches that the Jivatma and Paramatma are really one. We don't know our Paramatma nature. And then all this confusion follows. So in the WhatsApp profile, you would have seen this Chin Mudra. If there is one picture or one symbol that can communicate what Advaita Vedanta is all about, is this Chin Mudra. And Dakshinamurti is the Adi Guru. And in the hand of Dakshinamurti, you can see the Chin Mudra. What does this represent? The thumb represents Paramatma. The thumb is extremely important for the hand. Without the thumb, the hand cannot do anything. The thumb represents Paramatma. And this index finger is the Jivatma, the individual, the ignorant individual. And these three fingers, they represent the three bodies that the individual is associated with. The Sthula Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira, and the Karana Sharira. We will get into all this later. But out of ignorance, the Jivatma thinks that he is these three bodies and is identified with the three bodies. Is suffering. But with this knowledge, the Jivatma gets united with the Paramatma. It is not something that the union happens. In fact, the union is already Siddha. It's accomplished. We don't know about it. Through the knowledge, the union is just recognized. The already existing union is recognized. And therefore, this Jiva gets Purnatvam. Because the Paramatma is Purnaha. Paramatma is full, complete, limitless, imperishable, absolute. So the yogi, the Jnana yogi, the Jnani, having discovered the oneness of his own self with Paramatma, revels in it. That's why we say, Ramante yoginaha asmin. Yogis revel in this. And that is the explanation, meaning of the word Rama. So the meaning of the word Rama, the actual etymology, Ramante yoginaha asmin, the one in whom the yogis revel. And they revel in this Paramatma, having discovered that this Atma is Paramatma. We saw the Ayodhya Mandir. Sri Rama is actually is the Purnatvam, the Purna Paramatma, the Purnatvam that I am seeking. And once this happens, then Ayodhya. Ayodhya is the place that on which a war cannot be waged. Ayodhya. Unassailable place. So all these apurnatvas that were waging, that were constantly troubling me, they cannot touch this person. As we saw, Mrityu, death cannot touch this Paramatma. Therefore, this is the Vishaya. And that's why Vedanta is called Atma Vidya, Brahma Vidya. Vishaya is Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. So what is the Sambandha? We saw Prayojana. We have seen the Vishaya. What is the Sambandha between the Vishaya and the Prayojana? So the study, Vedanta. So there is the study, Vedanta. And there is the Vishaya, which is Atma. What is the Sambandha between those two? So let us say I have to gain the knowledge of colors. So the color is the Vishaya. And then I have to use my eyes to see the color. There are three factors in this knowledge. One is the Vishaya. One is the instrument that I use to get that knowledge, which is the eye. Netram, Chakshuhu, whatever we call it. And then finally, there's a knowledge of the color that arises in my mind. So we give these three names. The Vishaya is called Prameyaha. The instrument is called Pramanam. And the knowledge that rises is called Prama. So in order to know the Prameyaha, I have to use the Pramanam, and that gives rise to the Prama in my mind. In order to know the color, I use the eye, the Pramanam eye. The Prameya color is known through the Pramanam eye, and that gives rise to the knowledge of the color called Prama. So the connection between Vedanta and the Vishaya is Atma, is that Vedanta is the Pramanam, it's equivalent to the eye. I cannot see the Atma with the physical eye. Vedanta is the spiritual eye, so to say. It reveals the nature of the Atma. The words of Shabda, the Shabda of Vedanta, reveals the nature of the Atma to me. That's why it's called Shabda Pramanam. And between Vedanta and Atma Jnanam, the connection is between what? Between the instrument and the knowledge. It's a producer-produced relationship. The instrument produces the knowledge of the Vishaya. So between the eye and the color, it's a revealer-revealed relationship. The color is revealed, the instrument is the revealer. Between Vedanta and Atma, it's a revealer-revealed relationship. Atma is revealed by the words of Vedanta. We study the words of Vedanta. And between the Atma Jnanam and Vedanta, it's a producer-produced relationship. So there's one question here, that are there any other instruments through which I can get the Atma Jnanam? Are there any other pramanas? And this is an important discussion. It is important to ask this question. We will look at it later. Perhaps in another 3-4 classes we might get to it. The answer is that Vedanta is the only pramanam that we know that can get to the Atma, that can reveal the Atma, that can reveal the nature of the Atma. So now, if we put these together, then Vedanta gives rise to the Atma Jnanam. Study of Vedanta gives rise to the Atma Jnanam. And the Atma Jnanam shows my union with Paramatma. It shows that I am one with Paramatma. So unlike the medical science example where the knowledge has to be applied in order to get to the Mukhya Prayojanam, the Avantara Prayojanam has to be applied in order to get to the Mukhya Prayojanam, you have to do something else. Here the knowledge itself reveals the Mukhya Prayojanam, that the union is already accomplished, that you are Purnaha is revealed by the knowledge. There is, once the knowledge rises, there is nothing else that I need to do with the knowledge. I just have to see that the knowledge is saying I am Purnaha, that what I want, that limitless, unconstrained, unqualified fulfillment that I was already seeking is accomplished, that I was seeking is already accomplished. That is the Sambandha. This is a bit like this lady with the necklace who thought that the necklace was lost. And she was doing all kinds of things in order to find the necklace. Now, let us say somebody informs her that the necklace is lost. She has the knowledge that I already have the necklace. Then whatever she was seeking, she has found. So it is exactly a similar situation here. So the ignorance of Atma is leading to all of this seeking. With the knowledge of the Atma, one sees that whatever I was seeking is already accomplished. So there is something else we required in terms of once these factors come together, there are certain qualifications that are also needed, that are important for this study to give rise to the jnana. So we'll look at all that later. But basically the point is that the adhikari, the candidate, right, has to see, has to understand what the Vishaya is, has to understand very clearly what the Prayojanam is, has to be interested in the Prayojanam. In this case, the Prayojanam is Purnatvam. Adhikari has to be interested in that. And interested in seeking the Purnatvam directly, not through various means. Because like we said, we are all seeking that Purnatvam only, but through various other things in the world. The adhikari has to have a certain maturity to recognize that now I have tried all this is not where it is to be found. I have to look for it where I have lost it. And where I have lost it is in the I. So the adhikari has to see that I have to come to the study of this Vishaya, and this Vishaya is Atma, and I have to study the Atma in order to gain the Atma Jnanam, through which I have to gain the Purnatvam. The entire chain of reasoning has to be very clear in the adhikari's mind. And what Pujya Swamiji, my Paramaguru, he says that when an adhikari with the right qualifications comes in contact with the teaching, then it's like high octane fuel coming in contact with fire. The combustion is immediate. The rise of knowledge is immediate. Doesn't take long. Those are Uttama Adhikaris. This Adhikaritvam itself is a spectrum. There are people who are Kanishta Adhikaris. They have the Adhikaritvam in a smaller measure. There are Madhyama Adhikaris who have Adhikaritvam in a greater measure. And then there are Uttama Adhikaris. But the path to Purnatvam is more or less the same. Maybe the people who are on the Kanishtha Adhikaris, the lower end of the spectrum, they have to work harder to gain certain qualifications. So basically, even though we may not be fully qualified, we need not be disheartened. The purpose of this exercise is to study who an adhikari is, and then do what is necessary in order to gain the qualifications so that I can become from a Kanishtha adhikari, I can become a Madhyama adhikari and then become an Uttama adhikari. Or even a completely non-adhikari can try to become a Kanishtha adhikari. Because this is the path. So we are already at the end of the hour now. I will terminate this here. And what I'll do is I'll give a summary at the beginning of every class so that we can get the context for what we have studied. Usually I find that I'm running a little bit short on time at the end of the class to give the summary. I'll try to do that if possible, but I'll definitely give a summary at the beginning of the next class. So with this, I'll say the Shanti Mantra, and we may have time for a few questions till 8:10 a.m. We can continue. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So if there are any questions or comments anybody has, you can please unmute and ask. And this is what kind of gives a little bit of a feel, at least, of having seen some faces during the class. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a strange feeling that you have talked to some people, but we never saw who was there. So if possible, you can also turn on your videos at this time. At least we can see each other and, associate names with faces. So if there are any questions, you can please ask. We have about 5 minutes.
Laxi, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Really a pleasure listening to you. Question is, you said the last part, you meet the right adhikari meets the guru, and then it's like instant fire, right? How does that happen? Is it a prarabdha karma that you meet the right guru, or how does that happen?
Well, there is definitely the karma, we say, has a huge role to play in guiding us on our spiritual journey. So we say it needs Ishvara's anugraha. Ishvaranugraha gurva abhigamanam bhavet, guror anugraha shastrasya shravanam bhavet. Shravanam manana dvara hi swatma darshanam bhavet, swatma sandarshaneneva siddhir mokshasya vai bhavet. So this entire journey, right? So it requires Ishvara's anugraha at every step. So, and that Ishvara's anugraha, Ishvara's grace, Ishvara doesn't dole out to people. Ishvara is, because if Ishvara just gave anugraha to somebody and did not give anugraha to somebody else, that would make Ishvara unfair in some ways. So Ishvara's grace, what we say, is like solar power. Solar power is available to everybody. But those who put the solar panels are the ones who are able to tap Ishvara's anugraha. So similarly, we have to tap Ishvara's anugraha. And Ishvara's anugraha, we say, is tapped through the right karmas. By doing our dharma, by following our dharma, by doing the right karmas, then it results in a certain punyam. We will see all of this. In fact, this is the making of an adhikari is what we are going to discuss next. How does the adhikari become an adhikari? How does the adhikari earn Ishvara's anugraha to go on this journey? And what we say is that this the punya is what eventually fructifies. The punya is what eventually leads us on every step of our way towards the goal. So it is not just in meeting the right guru, in gaining the qualifications, for example, punya is required. In meeting the guru, the punya is required. But then the guru may teach something to understand that one needs the qualifications. For that also punya is required. So punya is required every step of the way, and that is why we insist that in the Veda Purva, the previous portion of the Veda, it insists that do the right karmas, because it wants to guide us. It wants to guide us on this journey to gain the qualifications to come to Vedanta. We will look at this in a lot more detail. In fact, these are the topics that are coming up. I have given a preview of that only.
Yeah, Namaskaram, Satyanji.
Thank
There's one very practical scenario that you had raised and quoted in the example where you're walking down an alley, a dark alley, and you're chased by a pack of dogs at the scene. So, how exactly does Atmajnanam help in that situation? Even despite the fact I know that this is a different type of dream, but I still have to deal with the situation. Right? I still have to deal with it. I mean, and probably the right thing to do at that moment is to escape from those dogs. So I couldn't probably catch the
Okay.
allegory.
Yeah, that was a sort of an extreme example in a sense that, sure, that was meant to illustrate that we are waking up from the dream, and when we wake up from the dream, then all the problems go away, right? Now, now, let us just assume that there is some jnani who is in a very difficult situation, a similar situation where, and then there are these situations that come up, right? You can divide situations broadly as choiceless situations in which you have no choice. You have to accept the situation, or a situation in which you have a choice to act. Those are broadly, you can classify every situation in life as this. Either you have a choice to act, or it's a choiceless situation. So the jnanam helps immensely in various ways. That firstly, if it's a situation in which I have a choice, right, I can dispassionately evaluate the actions that are available to me, right, and act and do what needs to be done. Even if I don't like what needs to be done, I'll do it because I don't have anything to gain from it, right? I do what needs to be done. And then so basically all these cross currents that happen in our mind due to ignorance, right? That I have worries, what will happen in future if I do this, what will be the outcomes, all those worries and those cross currents, cross conversations are not there in the mind of a jnani. It leads to very clear thinking in any given situation. So that is the first benefit in choiceful situations, right? Now the other is a choiceless situation. If I don't have any choice at all, for example, let us say one is facing a terminal illness, and we know of examples where we have had Mahatmas with terminal illnesses. Now, there, imagine a person who doesn't have this knowledge, then that person will have to go through a lot of suffering. that why did I have to be in this situation, and all kinds of apurnatvams are imputed to the I. But the Jnani will never ever say, I am suffering. Jnani will never say that. Because he has seen, I am the Atma with his Paramatma. Paramatma never suffers. So, even in a choiceless situation, because of the strength of the Jnanam, the Jnani can accept that. So, either there are only two choices in life, either act or accept. So, in both of these situations, the Jnani can do what is required. If the situation allows room for action, he can act. The situation has no room for action. If it has only to be accepted, he can accept that in his fullness, in his completeness. He doesn't become any lesser by accepting the situation. I think we are probably running out of time now.
Yeah.
So if there are any other questions, you can also provide it through the form, the Google form. Okay. Hari Om. Dhanyawada.
Hari Om, everyone.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Shadari. Hari Om.
Namaste, Satyan ji. Tuliparan.